This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, did somebody say November already? Whew. Next thing you know, we'll be celebrating 60 years of the show. Wow. As always, cannot thank you enough for joining Kenny and I. Mr. B, please show us that rundown if you will.
Yeah, don't mind if I do, Ray. Coming up, Governor Brian Kemp hits the road to Bainbridge, what he told farmers still waiting for storm relief and their response to his address. Also on the show, COOLEY Farms debuts its new facility aimed at educating and dispelling any myths or misinformation about animal agriculture. John Holcomb with a full report on that. And then later, located in beautiful northeast Georgia, this state-of-the-art facility has provided healing through equine therapy for 25 years. Why its owner says there is no other job she'd rather be doing. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor.
Well, a check of the latest numbers, you'll see that poultry continues to be one of Georgia's top commodities, generating more than $18 billion annually to the state's economy. However, be it as it may, the poultry industry as a whole is one that many people still don't know a lot about. But one prominent farm family is working to change that with a new poultry learning center built right on their own property. John Holcomb reports.
It was a time of celebration in Roberta recently as the COOLEY family showed off their brand new poultry learning center. The first the state of Georgia has ever seen, and more than likely, with the success they're hoping to have with it, won't be the last.
Today is our preview of our Learning Center room. It's actually a room that we built on the side of a chicken house to open the doors to the general public, field trips, students, legislators, anyone that's interested in coming and see what's inside a chicken house. Sometimes people always don't know. They wonder when they ride by and see the big buildings. They're not sure what's in there. So we wanted a way that they could look inside the chicken house.
The COOLEY family has been farming for generations. Today, they have a very diversified farming operation, with poultry being the largest part of it.
We have a poultry and cow and hay business. And so, of course, the chicken house is the most, what we do the most of. We actually have 16 houses now together with Leighton, our son, and his wife, Brenda, that we're in partnership together. We grow chickens for Purdue. We have cows and we have hay. And actually, all of our children share in the farm with us.
The COOLEYs have always been advocates for the ag industry and have always welcomed visitors out to their farm, which makes them a perfect fit for this new center.
We've always hosted field trips. We've always loved sharing our story. We love farming. We take lots of pride in what we do. We enjoy it, and we always like any opportunity that we have to share our story. So we've done field trips many times. We've hosted legislative luncheons and dinners and breakfast here, and we enjoy that, but we wanted a way to go deeper. We wanted to show more. We wanted a way that we could really show the kids exactly what was happening.
The idea came after traveling to Kentucky and seeing a learning center up there. They came back and started working on plans so they could build one for themselves. 8 months later, it's finished and ready to go.
The learning room is a 20 by 30 foot room with floor-to-ceiling windows that you walk in the front door and you see chicken houses. It's just a window, a look inside. And then inside we've installed equipment. We've installed the actual feed lines and water drinkers, and there are the control panels. Exactly what's in a real chicken house for the students to touch, look at, and experience. Just have a hands-on experience, just like what's inside a chicken house.
Since people can come and actually see into the chicken house and see the equipment that's used, the COOLEYs think this is a great opportunity to reach people that may not know anything about food production or are maybe just skeptical.
Everybody wants to know where their food comes from, and there seems to be a lot of myths or misconceptions now about where your food comes from. And we're a little more removed from agriculture than we have been the past generations. So sometimes I'm surprised when I hear what people think or what they're not sure about. And I always try to encourage people, ask a farmer. They want to tell you. And we're so thankful. Purdue is so transparent. We want to be, we just want to let people know what we're doing. We don't have any secrets. We love what we do, and we're anxious to share it.
Reporting in Roberta for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
In other ag news, the Monitor was there as Georgia Governor Brian Kemp met with farmers in Bainbridge to answer questions on a number of issues, including water regulations, hemp production, and rural development. However, the main topic of discussion continues to be disaster relief, as the majority of farmers are still waiting on their payment from the more than $3 billion government aid package. It's a problem Kemp says is not being taken lightly.
We stand ready to help, and as you all know, I've been and continue to push that issue. And I actually spoke to the president Saturday, and I mentioned to him that I had been hearing from people that the money wasn't flowing. And he said, well, if that continues to be a holdup, you need to let me know.
One of the producers in attendance was Decatur County Farm Bureau President Justin Long, who said that while he remains confident Kemp will eventually get the funding distributed, it does not change the fact that in the meantime, farmers are really hurting.
Yeah, we got some insurance money on our crops, but as somebody pointed out earlier out, we're about 30 to 35% short, which equates to around $300 to $350 an acre is where we're still short on coming up with that to pay the bank out. We're still rebuilding. Myself, I have about 15 miles of fences down, okay? That's a bunch of fence. And you're not talking about $700, $800, $900 repair. I'm talking about thousands of dollars. Well, we're in survival mode from last year, coupled with this year's low commodity prices, extremely low commodity prices. And that $10,000 to $15,000 it would take me to replace all my fences, I'm having to have that to live on.
As we just saw, with a number of different concerns facing the ag industry, from disaster relief to water conservation, it's important for policymakers to meet face-to-face with those being affected.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of the Ag Summit, a yearly event that allows farmers to have their voices heard. Damon Jones has that story.
State representatives, business leaders, and producers were all gathered under one roof in Perry for the annual Ag Issue Summit. And while there were a number of topics on the agenda, disaster relief payments remained at the top of the list. And it's a process that is now underway.
It's going fairly smooth. There's been a few things changed, a few little policy changes here and there, and maybe a few little software problems, but overall I think it's going fairly well. County offices are making payments now. I mean, as we do applications and they can be processed and reviewed, and FSA is making payments now.
And with more than 60 county offices around the state, farmers are encouraged to find out if they do qualify for any assistance.
I would advise them to call, talk with the county office, and also it'd probably be good to make an appointment to come into the local county office.
The ongoing water war with Florida has also received plenty of attention over the years. However, it could soon be coming to an end, as the courts will hear arguments from both sides in the near future.
We're kind of in a holding pattern. There'll be a hearing here in a couple of weeks in New Mexico in front of Judge Kelly. The state of Florida will have an opportunity to present its case and answer questions that the judge may have, as well as Georgia. We certainly expect a decision or a recommendation from Judge Kelly probably a few months after this hearing in early October, presenting his recommendation to the Supreme Court.
And this will be an important ruling, as water is the ag industry's most important commodity.
Obviously, water is the lifeblood of agriculture, and we believe we use the water that we have responsibly. When others say that we're not using it responsibly, we want to stand up for what we're doing and support our farmers who are conservation-minded in their use of water.
Farmers also got to hear from the newly formed Rural Development Council, whose main focus is to improve the quality of life for producers on the farm.
Your prosperity, what happens to you in Georgia, shouldn't be limited by your zip code. And that's what we've been working on. It's fun to be a part of it. The unique thing about the Rural Development Council is that we want people to come see us with real problems and possible solutions.
And the main concern for those in rural areas is receiving quality health care.
That's something we know is very important. For economic stability in the state of Georgia, having good access to health care has been important. We've listened to it, we've acted on it. We had a bill 2 years ago that I carried that worked on rural hospitals, pharmacies. So we've worked very hard on it. But we've also shone a light on it. So you've seen some policy changes. You've seen more money go towards rural hospitals, rural doctors, training programs.
Reporting from Tifton, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
All right, Damon, thank you so much. Harnessing the powerful connection between horses and people. It's what Reins of Life in Stevens County has been doing for 25 years. Their heartwarming story when the Farm Monitor continues. Now in its 25th year, Reins of Life in Stevens County is the benchmark of pretty much what all equine therapy programs strive to be. With an average of 400 clients per year from 5 different counties, their services include everything from working with autistic children and adults to troubled youths, even tortured survivors who have been rescued from the living nightmare of human trafficking. 5 years ago, they moved to a state-of-the-art facility built mostly through donations and the generosity of an entire community. And as you're about to hear, Reins of Life owner Cheryl Harris truly feels it was a higher power who specifically chose her as a vehicle to heal others. On one hand, Cheryl, you have your love of horses. On the other, there's that human compassion for mental health, physical health, and the well-being of people. How did those two come together?
Well, that's a long story, and I'll try to keep it short. It started when my husband and I became foster parents back in the 90s, and we started having kids in our care in our home and saw that they have no way to complete anything. They never get a sense of accomplishment in their lives, which is so vital for your mental health. So we decided to create a program, and a friend offered the use of their farm for that. So we started a 6 weeks program working with kids from foster care or from Department of Juvenile Justice, taking referrals from them, and we didn't have a clue what we were doing. We just thought we did, but we didn't. And as time went on, there are several organizations who have become available in the United States to train people to do this work effectively, professionally, ethically, and we took those trainings and became certified in those ways, and the program just grew from there. We just started getting all these referrals from different people, and boom.
And you look at some of these, animals around the kids. What is it between that relationship between these, even the special needs kids, even kids with developmental disabilities? Mm-hmm. What is it about that relationship between the animal and that person?
It's really hard to put words to it. Horses just seem to have an innate ability to look at someone and read them. Horses are prey animals and we're predators, and that makes it a very unique, dynamic relationship. Usually prey animals are always watching to see if a predator is going to hurt them, but somehow, as they've been used more and more in this kind of work, they've figured out a way to not only be okay with predators surrounding them, but to actually want to serve them. And I personally feel like that's a gift from God. I feel like God gifts them with the ability to see somebody and say, I can help you, or let me help you. And it is amazing how often they will do things for our clients and participants that they would never do for us.
The lessons that are learned here are enormous. You learn social skills, you learn how to work with animals, but make that bond to connect. You're not just becoming friends with somebody, you're taking care of an animal. You're grooming an animal, you're cleaning up after that animal, you're caring for that animal. I've seen them change coming out communication-wise. I've had some students that have had so many fears that just even fears of going into a different place that they've never been to. And I've brought them out here, and at first they were hesitant, and then by the end of the 8-week program, they are on a horse, riding a horse, and asking to come back.
I watched you and studied you very carefully.
Oh no.
You never lost your smile. You were smiling every step of the way. It's almost like you were put on this earth to do this. This is where you belong.
I agree with you. I think that is my mission, my life's work, if you would. I don't know why I've been blessed that way, because I don't deserve it any more than anybody else does. I really love that I get to live my passion, and I realize that not everybody gets to do that. And I don't know why I do, but I love that I do. I love the work I do. I love watching the kids. I love watching the way that the horses interact with them and how they grow and change and just learn about themselves and about life. And that empowers me and gives me a lot of satisfaction in life.
Yeah, let me tell you, watching Cheryl and her staff work with those children, absolutely amazing, and without a doubt, one of the finer equine facilities you will ever see. And if you would like more information about Reins of Life, feel free to check them out on the web. That address you see there on the screen, that is reinsoflife.net.
All right, Ray, thank you so much. Well, from harnessing the power of equines to corralling the benefits of dairy. When we come back, an expert in the field explains how milk literally saved generations of humans.
Ralph Waldo Emerson famously said, "The first farmer was the first man." Jan Jones is a millennial peanut farmer who's creating some firsts of her own. As a woman who happens to be really good at her job.
Like I still get the, oh, you're still farming? You still like it? You know, 5 years later, and I'm like, at what point will this not be a novelty to you?
Jan and her sisters grew up helping out on the family's farm in southwest Georgia. She earned her degree, set her sights on a teaching career. But after a disappointing first year, Jan came home to the farm to work part-time with her dad and figure out a new plan.
I really liked seeing what I was accomplishing behind me as I was doing it. That immediate gratification was something that I didn't see in teaching at all. I fell in love with it, so I stayed.
That's not to say she hadn't tore up a few things, because she has.
Like, one of the things that really helped that process was figuring out that he wouldn't be hard on me if he didn't think that I could take it. And if he wasn't hard on me, I wouldn't be the farmer that I am.
She's a farmer and a businesswoman. Jan took out a loan, and now she manages the agricultural and financial responsibility for 150 acres. But Hurricane Michael threw all of that into jeopardy.
Just getting ready to move into South Georgia.
The storm forecast to hit in the crucial days when the peanuts were ready to harvest.
Dad and I, we had to have a conversation. Do we dig or do we leave them in the ground? It's gut-wrenching. Like, there's a stress level there that's just really hard to convey, but then at the same time, there's nothing you can do about it. What are we gonna wake up to Thursday morning?
Their joint decision to leave the peanuts in the ground ultimately saved the crop, but it was still a gamble.
Dad and I, neither one of us by any means have like the Cadillac version of crop insurance. You can't afford it.
There's a lot of rewards in farming, but there's also a lot of heartaches and a lot of disappointments. I'm proud that she's got it in her blood and wants to do it. No doubt she could probably go do something and make more money, but a lot of times money isn't happiness.
And if you could somehow harvest happiness, it would be the sweetest crop of all. For now, peanuts will do just fine.
They taste sweeter right after you dig them up.
Finally this week, ask any dairy farmer in Georgia what the secret to a healthy life is, and chances are they will say, well, it starts with milk.
Unfortunately, with the advent of milk alternatives, the dairy industry continues to struggle, and some would argue that our nation as a whole has lost sight of many of the benefits of milk. Dr. Bruce German, a food and health expert, shares an insightful look at the history of milk and how it has sustained life for generations.
It's clear that the most remarkable system of nourishment in history is lactation. This remarkable idea of the mother-infant pair, the mother dissolving herself to make a complete and comprehensive diet for her infant. And understanding how that works is providing us the means to understand how diet works for all of us. Milk feeds the baby, and it feeds selective bacteria in the baby, so that in essence, microbiological community that we all eventually end up with is started in a very supportive way by milk. What an idea. The genius of humans 10,000 years ago of domesticating cows and using milk as a dietary choice was one of the most remarkable ideas in human history. The idea of domesticating cows and making milk available came about in 4 places in the world. 2 in North Africa, 1 in West India, and Northern Europe. And in each of those 4 places, there's an interesting effect on the populations. They're basically today dominated by people who have a rare mutation. That mutation is the ability to continue to digest lactose throughout their entire lives. Normally, mammals lose the lactase enzyme at weaning. But in these 4 places where, in essence, cow's milk became part of the diet, the people who survive today all have this rare mutation. What that means is if you didn't have that mutation, if you couldn't digest lactose as an adult, you're gone from the gene pool. You have no descendants. Milk literally saved those people. In looking at milk and its role in health, you can use various scientific tools, and one of them is epidemiology. You look at a population, examine its behaviors, its diet, and then look at outcomes. And Peter Elwood in the United Kingdom is an epidemiologist, and he examined in the United Kingdom populations that consume dairy products and compared them to populations who didn't consume dairy products. And he asked a simple question, right? What did they die of? And of course, he expected that he would find that consuming dairy products increased the risk of dying of heart disease. What he found was exactly the opposite. The populations who consumed dairy products were less likely to die of heart disease. They were less likely to die of stroke. They were less likely to die of various cancers. They were less likely to die of diabetes. It was a remarkable, in essence, testament to the decision to consume dairy products was actually increasing the lifespan, the quality of life, and the performance of these people. So what we're realizing is that milk really helps babies. But milk can teach us how to eat the rest of our lives. And one of the most successful dietary components throughout human history has been dairy products, and continues to be true today. So one of the things that as scientists we've been asking is why is it that milk, while providing all these benefits to infants and to the history of humans, is it so undervalued today? We realize there are 2 things. One is we typically don't study health. Scientifically, we study diseases, and we examine virtually everything that, in essence, we think of as a candidate as a potential therapeutic drug. And not surprisingly, in that context, milk of any kind doesn't cure many diseases. But the more we take it apart and look at its actions, we realize it's actually working to prevent diseases and literally stop them from starting in the first place. So milk has a variety of components and mechanisms of action, targets on which it acts, that genuinely improve your health and lower your risk of disease. And as we take charge of our own health, the value of things that improve our health will go up. And the single most valuable component in the food supply is milk. And the dairy industry can begin first by recognizing we have the most valuable health food there ever was. And they also need to begin to literally invest in that future. The greater we, in essence, want to improve our health, the more valuable dairy will become.
All right, so now that you know, drink up. Well, you hear the music. Yep. Unfortunately, that means we're out of time.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Farm Monitor. Have a great week.